Welcome to UNCAGED. Today we're speaking with Matias Daroch. Matias, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Matias, like all folks in the architectural space, sometimes have multiple hats, but he is probably most clearly a principal at MIK Architecture. He's also a managing director at AGD Developers, and he really bridges the world of architecture and real estate development. And so we're going to be talking about how he does that, really kind of that why that's the sweet spot for him right now. Sometimes goes by the moniker the investor's architect, which is I think a very clever moniker. But before we get there, Matias, let's talk a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you mentioned, Bant, I am an architect by training. I'm a registered architect. But really my perspective comes from spending years sitting down on the developer side of the table. I came to Miami, to US, as a real estate developer, and then I got my architecture's license. And that's one of the reasons behind it was because I realized that this bridge between architecture and development was sometimes not aligned, you could call it. Yeah. So that's, with that disconnect, I just couldn't ignore it. Architects are often thinking a project in an artistic way and not really looking at the financial things that the project have and using that as a starting point and, to get projects with speed, clarity, and hopefully a predictable exit. And
I love it, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, finding ways to bring all of those areas together is absolutely critical. But tell me a little bit more about the work that you've been working on. I mean, what types of projects do you and the team get involved in?
Well, we are a residential architecture firm and development. Mm-hmm. Mainly we do high-end spec homes down here in South Florida. That's like our niche area. We can do sometimes, the 5, 10, 20 multifamily high-end projects, but always focus on that residential area and that high-end, projects that, in our opinion, are the less risky, and of course that also are very fulfilling on the architecture design side and of course the return side.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've seen some recent news stories about billionaires moving to southern Florida. So maybe there's some exciting projects in your near future, Matias, on those fronts. But I'd say that the development space is going through kind of twists and turns. I remember when I spoke with a team of developers really during after COVID, and there was a moment where prices for a lot of stuff just went shooting through the roof, and they were trying to work on how they would manage that type of stuff. What are some of the key issues that are impacting the way you and the team approach projects right now?
Well, it is a tough market right now. I have to say that. It's clearly transitioning. I probably already transitioned. We were in an area which was a very seller's market to a now buyer's market. But that's where it's more critical to have that planning, that strategy, and the discipline of the design and the whole process, not only design, the whole process from research and analysis of a specific project comes into play to get that exit, in the right way. And I don't think I answered your question, but things are, yes, we have high-end profiles coming in to Miami, to certain areas. And these are projects that are way too high, even for normal market. We're talking about $80-100 million homes. It's crazy.
Right.
So on the other side, we have $500,000 homes, condos, whatever, that are, you as a developer, you build something new and it's going to cost you, you barely break even. So it doesn't
Right.
really make sense there. So now we're going into a market that is on the under $10 million, and we're talking projects here that are still being affected by the mortgage rates, the the loan capacity and the purchase capacity of the
Right.
people. But then we go into the above $10 million projects, and that's the sweet spot. That is where the market is still moving forward. It's stable. It's not either a seller's or a buyer market, but that's like the place we're focusing on, where the cost of materials is still, it's high because you're in a luxury market and you still have to buy good things. But the return and the important thing here is who's going to buy it, and
Yeah.
you have that public in that area and that market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not so many people can afford that, but certainly
That's
the
true.
ones that can are benefiting. So probably it's a good thing for them. But tell me, Matthias, I mean, these projects are really complex. It requires a lot of things, bringing things together. But tell me where the passion comes from for the space.
For the space, you mean like in the
Yeah,
project itself?
architecture and development. Yeah.
For
Did you
myself,
imagine that you would do this throughout your whole life?
honestly, I didn't. I was very well. My background is from Chile. I studied architecture in Chile. In Chile, we have amazing architecture as well, contemporary style, very focused on the sustainable side. And I always thought I was going to go that way. When I came to Miami, I realized that while some materials may be very sustainable, it's not really the focus. Here, we're focusing on resiliency, on sustainability in the sense of let's stay alive in that hurricane or the flooding that might come in, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and eventually, looking at I started small with a very simple, affordable housing, but we try to make it well planned, well livable, that's strategic and plan wise. But then we started realizing that once you go up, there are many projects that are not really thoughtful, not really thinking of being designed to sell. They're being designed as an aesthetic point of view, which is great. Yes, it helps, but it's not the only thing. And we're talking about things like sight lines from the moment you come into the house, designing with the landscape, the current landscape, current
Yeah.
trees, you can bring them into the project and use that in your favor. Layouts that, photograph well, it's, yeah, you can, it sounds salesy sometimes, but at the same time, it is something that someone that's going to live in it is still going to see it that way, and it's going to still be happy passing through that amazing window looking at this amazing tree, which is very good photography, but it's also very good living.
Yeah.
But not only that part for the sales, it's also structural efficiency, documentation that helps the builders, not the other way around. We're not trying to point fingers. We're trying to work together as a team.
Right.
And all of that things we started learning from house to house, and that's what we're building right now.
There was a time where I was reading out about all of these properties that were going to be basically kind of like almost like 3D printed houses. But is that still moving forward, or is that an area that has slowed down?
I would say that is an area that's moving forward in certain places.
Okay.
I don't think Miami's one of them.
Okay. Yeah. Miami clearly focuses on this idea of what you were saying, which is the resiliency. And I would say probably some of the things that have happened in South Florida in terms of the new laws that are putting in place to make sure that properties are solid are probably top of mind for folks as they move forward. But I mean, clearly we're going to see things shift, and I mean, we did see interest rates drop a little bit. Maybe they'll drop again. What's your thought about the near future? What are you thinking it's going to look like?
Well, the good thing is that the market is already starting to reactivate, I'll call it. It was never paused because in Miami we didn't really see new construction. I mean, right? I'm mostly focused on new construction. We didn't really see prices go down for new construction. It stayed stable. And right now, the good thing is that it started moving again. The pricing hasn't gone up. I don't think they're going to go up until some time, but you're going to see that stock moving around a little bit more. And we are still having people coming into South Florida. We still haven't seen that people coming out. There's some people that say that all the people that come from New York or from the upper states, they just have to live one hurricane and they're just gonna run away. I don't think so. I don't think so, because we're building very resiliently, and in the end, when there's a hurricane coming, everyone just leaves anyways. So, and Miami has a very good emergency response team, and in 1 week everything is almost back to normal after a big hurricane. So I still believe that with current market conditions, with the amazing place to live in Miami, other than the traffic, is actually a very good spot, and that's why we see so many high profiles still coming into South Florida and Miami-Dade. So I believe the market is going to continue to grow. It is a very optimistic in the long term. It may be flooding, but at the same time, we are working on things. The city's working on ways to mitigate that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that I noticed when I first moved to Miami, was that at certain times of the year you would get that kind of flooding in the streets. It does seem like the city's done a lot of work on that. It seems like in some of those neighborhoods that were having trouble with that, it seems like it's been not, I wouldn't say resolved, but certainly people are working on it. But you're absolutely right. The building doesn't stop. In the number of projects that I noticed literally from being away for a couple of weeks and coming back are always, it's incredible to see the continued development here across the board. And I'm excited to see some of it. Actually, I think there was kind of a renewal needed for sure in some of the stock. So,
and there's some other things that Miami is great about. It's a great connecting city. I mean, you can go basically almost all around the world from Miami, and that it helps a lot. It helps a lot for the foreign people that want to come in and live 6 months a year or 4 months a year. It helps us that we want to travel, and the climate. I mean, who can enjoy the climate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Summer's a little bit hot, but you still have.
It's funny though. Some people, it's funny. I'm not wild about the summers, but I have noticed that a lot of people actually, especially people that come from like Latin America or like the Caribbean who live here, they kind of don't mind it. They kind of like the summer. So they just like, and so it was interesting for me because I originally thought that was going to be a real problem, but people, Miamians have adapted to it. They kind of have their summer lifestyle that they live, and they like it. They like it a lot. Well, listen, I mean, Matias, it's amazing talking to you about all of this stuff. If someone wanted to learn more about what MIK Architecture is working on and what you're doing as a developer, where's the best place to find you?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram, Matias Daroch, also on our website of agddevelopers.com and mikarchitecture.com. We try to keep the things dynamic and moving, so lots of blog posts and projects. And in that website, if you really want to chat with me, you can send your contact information, and we'll just send you an email to book a meeting, and I'm happy to get a coffee, virtual coffee or not, to chat.
Excellent. Well, Matias, it's great to speak with you, and I'm excited to see the projects that you're putting in place here in South Florida. We've been speaking with Matias Daroch. He is the principal of MIK Architecture. He's also the managing director at AGD Developers, and we've been talking to him today about obviously architecture and where companies are, where people are, also really development, really where the real estate development market looks like today, and trying to bring those areas together to optimize and maximize the opportunity in an appealing way, in a way that actually will work for the ultimate user and customer of those properties. Matias, thank you so much for being on the show today, and we look forward to having you back.
I appreciate that very much. The conversation today was fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.